Welcome back, Streamer Nation. I'm your host, Michael Simeone, and you're listening to the SP Streamer Podcast, which is part of the Fantrax and FantraxHQ.com family. Let's bring in my wonderful co-host, Lauren. What's going on, Lauren?
Not much. It's good to see you. I don't know, not much. I feel like I was a little depressed. We talked about this a little bit before we got on, just reading all the new kind of baseball news, and deals have to be done by Monday, apparently, or the season is shortened. And so I feel like that combined with the Freddie Freeman news as a Braves fan is the rumors is very depressing to me. So I'm kind of down right now about
that. And then I don't know if you saw Lance McCullers news too. It looks like he is running behind on his he's coming back from that injury, which doesn't really affect me because I have 0 shares. So that works out pretty well. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens this coming week. Hopefully a deal is made and we don't have to worry about this stuff anymore. This horrible stuff. I know. But on today's podcast, we have a special guest. He is the Draft Champions overall winner in 2020. He is a main event league winner. You probably know him best as the host of the Pull Hitter podcast, and that is Rob DiPietro. What's going on, Rob?
Not much. Thanks for having me, Mike and Lauren. It's been a while since I've been on the mic, so hope I don't completely fail your show. But I'm happy to be here. I was a little nervous at first, but now I'm excited. I feel like I'm like, it's been a while, and now that things are slowing down in my life, I said it's a good time to get back on the podcast.
Do you think you're gonna record anytime soon, or no? You think you still?
I hope so.
Okay.
I hope so. Yeah, I'm hoping this is just gonna give me the juice to. My wife was like, "Listen, she's like, you just got to do it. You just got to get out and do it." She goes, "You got to take some time out for yourself. You've been dedicating your time, to everything else but you. So it's time for you to do that." And I'm like, "You're right." So that's why I'm excited about this, and hopefully it'll get my juices flowing to do it again.
I hope so. Because I know me and a lot of people love your podcast. So
I've gotten some DMs like, "Are you trying to have to share stuff this year?" I'm like, I'm like, no, it had nothing to do with that. I enjoyed doing that. I enjoy talking about process and players, but just haven't had the time. But yeah, now it's time to get back into it.
So you had a really good season in 2020, and I know coming into 2021, you kept saying that you're hoping that you could just kind of live up to the hype almost. You were like a little nervous to see, what you would do. So I jotted down some of your results, which you had to correct me on because apparently I can't read NFBC history correctly. So DCs, you entered 5 of them, you cashed in 4 and you won 2, right?
Yep.
Overall, like DC, your overall standings, though, you were 13th, 58th, 82nd, and 91st, which means most of your teams were in the top 100 overall, which is pretty ridiculous. So clearly, I think you proved that, yes, you're a very good DC player, Rob. And then you entered 2 main event leagues and you won one of them. And the one league that you won, Rob, I was sitting next to you during that draft. So I think I deserve some credit for you winning that league. And I just want to put that out there real quick.
Yes, you definitely gave me some good charms. I mean, you didn't actually do what I needed you to do on your computer, but still, you were there with good intentions, and I appreciated that. Yeah, I remember us talking about last year. Like I said, I felt like Randy Rosarena, like I needed to. I had this, hot short season, and I just needed to. But I think I outperformed Randy Rosarena.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe just by hair.
I've told this story. I don't know if I've told you, Lauren, but Rob had me come to bring my computer and just constantly refresh it, update news because there's spring training going on. So while you're drafting, you want to know if someone gets hurt.
Right.
So I get there and my computer refuses to connect to the internet. So I was basically useless.
Oh no.
So no, I was sitting there on my phone though, refreshing for making sure. So
I feel like that would be very stressy, if that's like your job and you come in and like, oh no, this isn't working. This is my only job.
I was
yeah.
Yes.
And I just remember some rounds, just like when it was like, I knew I was going to take a picture because I picked on the wheel. So it was like pictures, like I knew I wanted to eye a picture, and I would write down 4 on like a piece of paper next to him, and he'd just be like, "Oh, I don't know about this guy." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like in my head, I'm like, "Don't tell me that." But and then there was some times where like 3 or 4 of them got knocked, like my whole list just got knocked out on the way back, and we just have to scramble up like some more pictures. And and I think it was Todd Whitestone just stealing all our picks. I think he heard everything we were saying, Mike.
He took a couple, yeah.
He took a couple, yeah.
That was fun though. I was glad you invited me.
It was good times.
Just remember who your good luck charm is, okay?
Right.
So if you don't win a main event this year, that means next year you're gonna, no matter what, have to bring me
100%. 100%.
Sure that out there.
Yeah. That is definitely a superstitious thing for sure.
Yes. So, I mean, how did you feel about your season, Rob? I mean, I just kind of read off really quick those two. I mean, you did do a bunch of other leagues, different types of leagues that I think you did really well in as well. Overall, I'm assuming your return on investment was pretty good. Were you really happy with your 2021 results?
I was. I always expect a lot out of myself, really just try to push myself in everything I do. I constantly read, like, I have the Mamba mentality on my coffee table, and I'm constantly reading a couple pages a day out of it just to like keep myself focused and eye on the prize. And yeah, I felt kind of good about it. I worked hard to, just make sure I listened to as many podcasts as I could and just really dove into a whole bunch of new research I never did. And, I really did want to, come in and do a good job. And, I mean, I felt like draft champions, last year was great. I had 4 teams in the top 100. Even, I guess if you even count the Battle of the Pods too, I mean, I won that with technically like a DC. I just found like a good smooth way to approach it that that I felt comfortable in, and trying to do it this year. Even though, like, I don't know if it's just it's different this year. I feel like I draft my teams and I'm like, oh my god, I'm not gonna do good this year. But
you texted me during our Battle of the Pods draft. You're like, I hate my team.
Yeah, like, it's my least favorite. It's my least favorite team I've drafted this year by far. I was just looking at it too, like right before we got on. I'm like, what did I do on this team?
I think it's a good team, but I mean, so Lauren actually is getting into NFBC this year for the first time. Yeah. And I think, Lauren, you said, are you going to try and do a 50s or?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm going your route, where I feel like that's a good kind of, test run, to see how you do and get used to the format. And so far I've done a couple leagues on NFBC, and I've really been enjoying it. I mean, I don't know, Rob, do you have any recommendations for kind of a newbie kind of getting into NFBC formats?
Well, yeah, I mean, I jumped into, I tried like one of every format. I did a DC, and which happened, the only DC I did that year, I actually won overall. It was pretty crazy. I tried an online championship. I jumped into a main event my first year, and even though I got smoked, it was a good learning experience. And I think that's what I would say, is just pay attention, like get used to the site, get used to where you could like find stats from and find the fab results, like get used to seeing what everybody else, what's accessible on the site in terms of how everyone else is trending with players or statistics. And it'll really give you a good rundown of like almost like what the quote unquote market is doing. And, you can, and definitely the 50s are so much fun. Oh my God. They are so much fun. It's such a great game, because I think people could waste their time with 50 like mock drafts or like $10 leagues where it's okay, but this is, you're getting your feet wet, and the 50 leagues are filled with new players and people who are like played a lot, and it's a great mix, and it's so much fun because I just feel like when I draft the 50, I look at my team and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah, it's fun. I think on one team I drafted, I just, and I, not to say that $50 is nothing, but I think it if you're going to play many, it could afford you to just try like different wild things. Like on one team, I have Cole, DeGrom, Cease, Darvish. Like I picked like this unbelievable staff, and I'm like, let me just try to just win all these pitching like just try something different, and it was fun. Do
you have a favorite format between kind of main events or draft champions? Or
the draft champ, I love the draft champion because I think it's easier during the week to just not have to do fab, and I kind of just like the whole projecting the season ahead of you type of thing. Like, projecting movement even in the season, like if you can anticipate when a player might get traded or and that player who might take that guy's role, at the trade deadline. And when you like hit those things, when your 42nd round pick gives you like 6 good weeks, it's like, it's such a cool feeling. I don't know.
Right.
It's just,
I feel like it's more of a puzzle too. Like it's,
right.
I feel like you're right. I think it's just more fun almost because you're stuck with that team. So it's just you figuring out all these little things. For the long run. Yeah.
And it's those little things, like I said, like the smallest things gave me the biggest joys. Like you get 18 innings from a pitcher that is like a 1.3 RA. Even if you never use him again, you just happen to need him for 2 weeks, and he does these wonderful things. Like, wow, this is why I had you here in the 48th round or whatever it is, and that's but the main event is such a different thing too, because there's just this heightened focus on like really trying to become the best player you can. And I feel like, that's what makes that event so special. Is because it's just, I don't know. I never wanted to win anything more than that, than one of those leagues last year. It was I mean, I don't know, I think I had like 6 or 7 fab leagues last year. And I spent most of my, like 70% of my free time on those 2 leagues.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. You co-managed me with that main event team that won, and it was fun. I didn't tell you, but like every week I was looking and seeing like how you're doing in the standings, and it was just like cool to see you because you were pretty much middle of the pack for most of the year,
right?
And then you kind of came up, and then you went down low, and then up, and it was just cool to see how you maneuvered your team. I didn't tell you that though. I kind of did. I was lurking in the shadows, Rob.
No, yeah, but you're right though. Like when you're in 11th and 12th and week 5 and 6, and you're just starting to identify, things you need to do very early. If you just keep trying to, let's say, roll your best players out. I know some people say they don't look at the standings until like August, and then they make switches. I don't know. That's just not my style. Like, I'm always hyper analyzing every possible angle. Like, I'm trying to multiply stats by the rest of the rest of the remaining weeks into what I have on my team. What can I expect? I need to like get this many homers per week. I don't know. I was just trying to really, and just attacking those things via fab and moving up, like you said, like 2 or 3 points a week. It's cool. That's what makes the main event, I think.
I think something that was cool that I was just listening to was Vlad Sedler had Posma on his podcast, who's also a really successful high stakes player. And he said that he tracks all his teams week by week, and he sees if his teams weekly will hit the targets for the week. And then, he accumulates it throughout the weeks to see if he's starting to fall behind in a category. I think that's really smart because you can react very early with that and try and catch up before really you lose too much of it, where like say you don't check till August and you're just way too far behind at that point anyway.
That's where I got that idea from, Mike. I got it because he was on my pod last year. And I don't know, it was like probably one of the episodes in the 40s. And I remember it too. Like, I remember Toby even DMing me, like, I can't believe he does that. That's such a great idea. And just
smart.
Yeah. So, and again, that's why he's a Hall of Famer, but you hear these little things, and that's why there's so much good information out there. And especially a lot of those guys who are very good in the NFBC arena, but aren't quote unquote analysts, they're just like lurking. They're just assassins in the background. And then you get these little nuggets from them, and you're like, whoa, I remember
I gotta do that.
Right? That whole podcast I did with him was the most notes I ever made, and probably between him and Phil's the most I went back to re-listen. Because I was like, wow, like he really said that. And like that 80th percentile thing week by week, I was blown away by that. I was like, wow,
I would never think to do that.
Right. And that's what I was trying to do last year in those fab leagues. And the main event was to try to do something like that,
Yep. Makes a lot of sense.
100%.
All right, so let's talk about some draft prep and stuff like that, Rob. So I know you like to use BABS. So can you just kind of describe it, what it is, and how someone can find it and that kind of stuff? So I know you're a fan of it.
Yeah, so I started using BABS like 4 or 5 years ago. It's a system that Ron Chandler developed. It's from his days in Baseball HQ. He had something called the Mayberry method that they still explain and they still carry even in the Baseball Forecaster. And it's just a rating system that pretty much just quickly identifies because his Ron Chandler's whole thing is like embrace the imprecision of trying to project stats. So he just keeps it to like a basic system of grading power, speed, average, their propensity to get hurt, and pitching, their ability to strike guys out, their ability to limit ERA, just and it groups players according to their assets, what he calls assets and liabilities. So and it's just a quick way to identify like groups of players, and you could quickly see through ADP, if like say Robbie Ray and Blake Snell both are identifying a similar skill, because his whole thing is like, I'll use like Mike Trout, for example. You could say he's going to hit 40 homers, right? But would you be surprised if he hits 35 or 45? Probably not, right?
No, right.
Like that's within the range of, so it's just kind of identifying players through like these buckets of skills that can be the similar thing, and just trying to identify where in the market you can capitalize. So if, through, like I was saying on BABS, this year, Robbie Ray and Blake Snell have the same rating. So if you would want to just wait your 50, 60 picks and get a guy with a similar skill, that's basically like what it tries to identify.
What do you think BABS helps you with the most in terms of draft prep?
Well, so the important thing that I would say about just even BABS and Baseball HQ, Ron Chandler, like when I first got into baseball analytics, it was through them, and it was through understanding. I guess what's that term? Like they teach you how to fish. They don't tell you like draft this guy and draft this guy. They say these are what metrics move the needle for these guys to, increase output in home run, to increase their hitting tool. And I think through the years, it just gave me the ability to really understand how to do it on my own. Like if there's something maybe they don't use that I'd like to incorporate, it gave me the ability to group players in a similar way, according to like maybe metrics they don't use or that's not on their site, so and I think that's actually the best skill it gave me, was be able to bucket players accordingly. But with BABS, because it comes out, like it just came out 2 weeks ago, his the BABS ranking system. So I've obviously been way ahead of prepping for that. So I think what it helps me with is just reviewing some of the buckets of players is kind of just maybe guys without a role that have a similar skill set. So, for example, last year, I know, Mike, we talked about Trevor Rogers like last October, November a lot. Like, I was like, I really like this guy. It was him and Keegan Aiken that we were like, oh, one of these two, right, is going to break out. And we were right about one of them. But, like, just something like that. When BABS came out, he was very high on the list, and so it's kind of like these guys who maybe didn't throw a lot of innings, or maybe the quote unquote has no path to playing time, and you can kind of identify someone who has all around skill set that just with a little bit of luck on their side through injury or playing time can really flourish for you.
Yeah, I think I remember a couple of years, I think maybe 2 years ago, someone was on a podcast talking about BABS, and it said that Bichette had the same skill set as Mike Trout. And I thought that was interesting. I remember when I heard that, I like always loved Bichette because of that. And he was a monster last season. So, if Trout kept running, he's kind of like, around that. But top 5 player. I mean,
Right. And there's things like that it doesn't include. That's why I kind of like to add a little bit of, my own sauce into it. But it's cool. And if anyone uses Rotolab, which is the drafting software, it has a great layout on that, and you can really like really identify players in a group. And then what's also good about it is sometimes you'll see the really unique groups. There's only 3 or 4 players in it, but then you'll get to like a grouping like for example, he breaks everything down into like a significant skill set, a moderate skill set, or like an extreme skill set. And there's a player group with like just moderate power and moderate batting average, and it's just like 60 guys in it. It's the biggest group, so you can understand within quickly, like within the batters, there's a lot of these type of guys who give you 25 homers and like a 260 average. Yeah. So you kind of quickly just say, oh, okay, like, so these are the guys that can be more of, and yeah. So
can kind of wait on stuff like that. So I know it's not on the outline, but I actually wanted to bring up Rotolab as well. Can you just kind of discuss that? Because I know you use it. I've heard other really good players say they use it, like I think Sedler, Silver, those kinds of people. So can you just touch on that a little bit too?
Yeah. See, my problem too is I use too many draft software, especially for slow drafts. I use I majority use 2, but most of the draft season I only use 1. But now like there's just too many good ones out there, and I'm like, oh my god, I just gotta focus on one of them. Like, but yes, Rotolab is it's cool. And it's not Excel or anything. It's its own software that you have to download into the computer, and it comes with preloaded with Baseball HQ projections. But they have a good editor ability where you could change the stats, and like if you just have if you want to put Steamer in there, you just have to like manipulate it a little more by hand. But and it's just a good software to really plug in your league settings if you have. Right. It's very customizable to, weird leagues, 10 team NL or whatever it is, it's, and I like it too, because like I said, I mainly use it for the BABS side of it, because it has, it's just a great way to keep track of my team. I could probably make an Excel sheet for it, but this is just so nice. And the guy who creates it, Merv, he's like got the best customer service. Like I would just like, last year, I remember it's like, oh, this is not loading right. And it was like 1 a.m. just write him an email. I'm like, all right, so I'll see what happens, next day. And I'm just still messing around with it. And I was like, oh my God, he emailed me back already, the great customer service. But I use that, and I use Tanner Bell's SGP. That's the one I've been using since, October drafts. And so I just kind of merge. I know one of your questions is about using projections. I've never been a projection guy until the last 2 years, really. I kind of merged, BABS with like a projection model. And I figured I had to use that to start getting better, because it really is a good way to, use and draft.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's move on to draft prep. So how do you start your prep? Like, I feel like everyone has a different way of starting, kind of. Do you just start creating spreadsheets and looking through them to like just see if anyone stands out? Do you start with individual player breakdowns? How do you kind of start your prep for the season?
Yeah, so this year I did something completely new. I took like 2 weeks to really make like a master batting sheet and a master hitting sheet on Google, and just bringing in Fangraphs data, Statcast data, having second half stats, full season stats, even taking Alex Chamberlain's leaderboard, because it's so annoying on the Tableau, just bringing it into sheets, and it was just so much easier to use it. But I took my time. I really learned how to like really do like a conditional formatting, like, and I spend time, like, instead of just saying, oh, go from green to red, like really putting the percentages I wanted to see. Like I want to see top 10%. I want to see then 20 to 50, instead of just saying, oh, just be colorful and have no meaning. It was easier. So I just took time to really bring everything in. And then I just started running filters, swing, that's better than league average, and zone contact rate better than league average, and just mess around, like under 200 at bats, over 200 at bats, and then diving in once I see, like, once again making buckets of players, like making groups of players, and like, oh, like these guys are kind of alike, and then just diving in more. after that.
Yeah, I remember you. I'm not going to mention the player, but you sent me. You were looking at fastballs, and you showed me the list of that, and there was like, I think 1 or 2 interesting guys on there with some elite starters. So I thought it was really smart and interesting what you did there. But yeah, for those listening, I got a little sneak peek at a sheet, and it was pretty intense. I must say, it was pretty intense.
Like I said, I really took my time. It was making me like so stressed out because I was like, oh my god, like, am I doing too much? But in the end,
and plus you kind of want to just get it done, so then you could like start looking and having fun with it. And I get it.
It's absolutely right. And then it would just add more things. I'm like, oh wait, I should make a tab of this, and and you just keep going, and like I would have a tab like your pitching rankings and another guy's pitching rankings. I would try to like group all the analyst ranks too, like in a sheet too, and like have them side by side so I could see kind of like what the consensus thinks as well as ADP, because I think that helps when you're drafting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So how do you try and in terms of plate appearances, do you try, because I mean obviously it's very important in DCs, especially trying to get an edge there. So do you more so rely on the accumulation of different projections, or do you do that and then do you adjust, or do you just kind of come up with your own plate appearance projections? What do you do for that?
Again, I use the Tanner Bell. He has a projection aggregator. You could aggregate up to 5 at once. It used to be 3, and then he bumped it up to 5, which is awesome.
Nice.
So and based on Jeff Zimmerman's articles on Fangraphs, where he ranked what the, how each,
each category.
Right. Yeah. So, per plate appearances and the rate stats, it's awesome. And even though it was just last year, I kind of have an idea of how it was 2 years ago too, from the one that I have. So I just think it's awesome. Like I just use that. And so I give a weighting system, I do like 50%, I should say, to the Bat X, and 20% to ATC, and 10% to Baseball HQ. I just kind of try to do that. And then from there, I don't really tweak too many guys. If I have a feeling on a player, and I think that's what's cool, because it spits out the SGP right there. And if you want to, he has a column for a plate appearance override. So, for example, like Connor Joe, right? He's like aggregated for 400 plate appearance. I'm like, let's just see what he does with 525. And it's like, you see how high he goes. Like, wow, like, hope he gets that back.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. But so that's what I try to do. I don't try to tweak too many of them, but if I see an obvious, because I feel, so many people do so much work, and especially like roster resource. And I know Jason tries hard to, really get the plate appearances right in the depth chart, but sometimes, you disagree, or you just have like a gut feeling like, I don't think I think this guy's going to have a better path than what they're saying. So I try to adjust those guys, but still to a realistic amount. I think last year I was too like, this guy's definitely going to get this amount, but you could, you can't say definitely. You have to be realistic. So I just try to tweak it to a point where I think like that chance of happening is realistic, not what I want it to be.
Right. Do you have a similar process then in terms of projecting innings pitched for pitchers?
Yeah. And I try not to play the doctor game as much as some people do. I do have a like with BABS and with my sheet, I try to keep like a ledger of injury risk guys, but I still feel that some players are worth that risk. I will go to bat for Jake the GOAT all the time. Like I just will, that's my flaw. Or, Tatis the same way. Like, I don't think that Trey Turner is a lock for 1. I think it's not even close. Honestly, I think like Tatis is that much better. And he proved it last year. He was worth more last year in less games. And, I'll take that chance every time, but you just have to manage it afterwards. Yeah, but innings pitches is so tricky. So I just try to, I'll change that much less than plate appearances. I just don't trust my ability to understand how much a pitcher should be throwing that next year, the organizational, outlook on things, or he threw his slider 20% more last year, so maybe he doesn't. I don't know. It's just there's so many variables with that. I just try to trust the experts on what they're anticipating.
Yeah, that makes sense. I pretty much do the same thing. I feel like there's no sense in us trying to predict that stuff because I don't think we can.
Exactly. That goes back to the whole Ron Chandler thing. He'll say it all the time in the baseball forecast, like, we are not good at projecting. Like, we can get to a certain level of goodness, but not to a point where we can guarantee anything. So it's so hard. That's why I just use the aggregator, and then I try to see, like, if I see if a guy is so much different, like 115 innings to 170, then I'll dive in and, like, why are these two systems so different? What are they relying on more? And then you could point out different things. How this system might be using 2020 more than this system. This system might be still relying on, minor league stats more than this system. And I think that's what's important, of looking at all of them and not just blindly, aggregating them and then just going forth, like, try to see what the differences are, try to understand, why Derek Hardy does certain things and, stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you do the elimination method at all, or does everyone kind of have a price for you?
No, there's guys that I won't, like Yohan Moncada, I'll never draft. Like, I don't care where he is or how much I need third base. There's certain guys I'm just like, no chance, they're just not going to make my team. And it's funny because I talk with Phil and Steve Weimer and Toby, like, a lot, and every time he gets brought up, they know what I'm gonna say. Like, they know I make the vomit emoji. Like, no chance.
Well, I'm glad I don't have any Moncada shares. I think maybe I won. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just don't get the infatuation with him. Like,
but he's definitely not my starter.
Yeah.
Do you have any shares, Lauren?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I'm not a huge Moncada fan either. So yeah.
I mean, I think it's important to be open to anybody, but I think it's also important. Like, again, I'll use the Tatis example. There's people completely saying, no way I'll draft him, right? And that's fine, but I just think you're limiting your potential when you shut off guys with such certainty. You could say, there's probably not a good chance I'll draft him, right? Like, that's like things they try to tell people who maybe get down on themselves. Like, never say the word "you can't." Like, I can't, I won't. You don't say those things. You just say, like, I probably will not go that route. Like, but don't say definitely, because I think you're just shutting yourself out to, really getting the best out of your abilities to, roster like a perfect team or as good as a team as you can. But I think it's good to eliminate certain players, or just eliminate maybe a profile too, like, this guy is, whatever any that you want to set on skill sets, and just say, I'm not drafting guys who reach this much, or have swing and miss this much. Like, those guys will say, I'll never draft Javi Baez, and that's fine if that's how you want to look at it.
Do you do that at all? Because I've never thought about doing that. Like, looking at a specific maybe grouping of metrics, and, like, if this player is, like, say, like, this player's strikeout rate is over a certain 30%. Amount. If it's over, like, I'm not going to touch them. Do you ever think like that, or no?
I strikeout rate too, I think, is something that people hyper analyze.
I agree.
Way too much,
I fully
because
agree.
Everyone's striking out, right? So if you're going to get hung up on Javi Baez's strikeout rate when the guy crushes ball when
every season,
that it's just certain players who could just look and say, well, this strikeout rate isn't affecting him, right? So why will go forward with that? But I've tried to filter out within, like, a position. So if I'm looking at second base, and I say, this is a skill set that I think is pretty common, so either I'll prioritize it and try to get it later, or just say, nah, I want something that can, make me different, make me unique, But I think more and more, when we just learn what a player might not a skill set that's just going to tank a person is important to know, but it's hard to really like eliminate so many people. That's what my opinion is. But there's guys I'm just less likely to draft. I guess that's how I'll phrase it. I'm just less likely to draft certain players.
So with K percentage, you're telling us to draft Tyler O'Neill, basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, draft away.
All right. So you were in my Battle of the Pods league, and I just wanted to bring up your first round pick, which was Shohei Ohtani. So at least in my opinion, I don't know if you feel the same way, Lauren. I just feel like this is probably bad to do, but I like don't even look at him because I feel like I can't like grasp the concept of him, like of building a team around him. Right.
I'm kind of on the same page. I just think there's too much. It's like a double risk to a certain extent. And I don't know. I have a hard time. He's a player that I think I would have a hard time kind of drafting in the first round. And I would like maybe consider it if it's say like a 15-team leaguer and like kind of in the back end. And if I can kind of like double tap, and if I'm at the turn, but I have a hard time kind of figuring out, how you like, I just think there's risk and I don't know how you build around that then.
Yeah. So that's what I want to ask you about because you took him, right? I don't know if you like him or not, or if you just want to try something new because again, Battle of Pods is kind of like a fun $50 league. So like, what was your experience after you took him? Like, did you find it hard to build around him, or how do you think, like, if players are taking him, how do you think they should build around him? Like, what are your thoughts on taking Ohtani?
I don't think it was difficult at all, really. And I think that in draft champions, I think the luxury, if you're accumulating batting at a high rate and you want to start him for 5 or 6 weeks, I mean, look at his pitching statistics, right? I mean, he returned a dollar value pitching wise that was in the top 30, right? So, I mean, to me, the way I look at it is how is that not great to be utilized? I think everyone's so worried about him, sitting him for the 4 homer, 2 stolen base week, which is fine. Yeah, that's a shitty week to lose like such stats, but the ability to say, oh, like I could throw this guy as a pitcher. I also think personally that he will get chances to double start this year in weeks. And I will firmly take advantage of that because I think if he gets 2 start weeks, I'm starting him those weeks without a doubt.
No doubt. Right.
No doubt. And
would you just play matchups with him in terms of pitching? Like you think it's a good matchup, you'll throw him in as a pitcher. Otherwise you're going to leave him as your hitter, or you're going to mainly are you mainly focused in on him as a hitter? Like what's your opinion on that?
I think I'll just, again, like maybe try to play that 80th, percentile game and see how I'm doing. If it's week 8 and I see that, okay, I got a good, like I got good batting. Like I'm at 60 points in batting and I need some Ks. I'll start him as a pitcher, maybe try to work, and I think that's a benefit. I don't think that's, the worst projection for him. I'll just use ATC, which is the lowest at 38 and 22. Let's just say the weeks you sit him, he still goes 30 and 15, right, in the first round. And then let's just say on top of that, you start him 5 times and he gives you, 8 Ks per start. And that's 40 strikeouts. What a great ERA and whip. I just think that's beneficial. I think just to be, just to be able to use him in both ways is awesome. And I just think what he provides when he does play is pretty magical,
Yeah, I mean, I think that is true that, he is probably like the only player that brings that to the table. And I do get that upside. Like, does it bother you at all? It probably doesn't, but that he only can slot into the utility role. You're kind of minus a position there.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that, obviously you don't want to tie up too soon. But I also feel that it really is just another spot on your team, right? Like it's you can definitely be concerned with it. Like if I don't draft Ohtani, like I don't want to draft Franmil Reyes too early. You know,
Right.
I don't want to draft Nelson Cruz that early. Like I got Nelson Cruz in one DC, like because he just went and it was like 240, and I was like, yeah, I'll take him, sure. You know,
Yeah.
But you know, and I don't know. I just felt like I'll make it work because, you know, like I said, 46 and 26, you can be there. You can be that one spot. That's fine. you know, like it's I know it was a diversification thing too. I told myself right before the draft, actually, I kind of said, if it comes down to like that spot, I was trying to kind of look for like Acuna or Ohtani. I hadn't had them in the league yet, but I actually had Ohtani, and I took him number 1 in a best ball league, which that's a no-brainer. But you know, I was like, you know what? Let me try this. You know, I think it's a ton of fun to watch too, and I'm gonna try to really, you know, get into like trying to utilize him into pitching as much as I could. You know.
Yeah. Wait, where did you get him again? Did you say 6?
First round. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
8th pick.
Oh, 8th.
Oh, 8th. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's the thing too. Like, I didn't really want a pitcher that high except for Burns or Cole, and they went. And I had a Tucker share. I had a couple of Harper picks in the first round. So I was probably gonna go Harper again if I wasn't gonna try to change and go Ohtani and Acuna. But then I just I don't know, I'm picking Shohei. Like this is gonna be fun, you know.
Yeah.
I think I had the 10th pick too in that one, and I've had so many, and I've taken Harper a bunch and Tucker, and I'm just like, I wanted to try something different in that league too. And
the Woodruff pick, I was like, wow, nice, Mike. Yeah, you really
yeah. So I just want to ask you this because it's been the hot topic as of late. What's your thoughts on Vlad Jr.?
Oh man, I mean, yeah, you know, it's tough because you do want to get that speed. I get the, you know, that whole aspect of wanting speed, and you know, people, I guess, also mentioning the Dunedin thing, which is definitely fine. It's definitely good to be aware of. Some people transcend location. You know, some players are special enough. How old is he?
No, right.
Oh, he's gonna regress. How do you know? Like, how do you know he's gonna regress?
22.
Maybe he has another level. You know?
Yeah, right.
I
think some people, it depends how they're saying it. I mean, I think some people think like he's gonna really regress, but then other people have said it. You know, not that like he's not going to be bad, like he's still going to be amazing.
Yeah,
but there is that tiny chance that like, you know, he's not going to play as well, perhaps. But you're right. We don't know. I mean, there could be another level to him for all we know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think really the main argument is building around him or taking someone in the first round without speed.
Right.
So is that something that like you're willing to do, Rob, or you're kind of shying away from him as well because you really want either an ace or someone with speed in the first round?
I would probably, when it comes to FAB season, want speed or an ace. Okay. Preferably. Again, I'm not gonna cross him off my draft board, right? And
no, of course
I had a price, right? No, you can't. And
you can't
like, I know maybe if it does come to a spot where he's sitting maybe in the latter half of the first round, I'm gonna be like, well, let's, I'll make it work.
Let's roll.
I think, and as long as you maybe understand and have like a little plan, like don't just do it last minute, go into a draft and say, all right, if Vlad falls to here, how can I do it? And if you feel like, oh, you know what, I can make that work, and I think in the draft champions too, I think there is pockets of late speed that's not special, but to supplement him would be fine. Like, like I said, he's just a special hitter. He's a special player. I mean, what is he, 23?
22.
22.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's 22 years old. Like,
crazy.
he's I mean, there there might be another level. There might be 2 more levels. Who knows? He's just he's special. He's hungry. You know, he already made one switch to become great because you know, I'm sure his dad said, "Hey, you know, you got to smarten up if you want to be great," and he did. He lost weight. He got focused, and I just think that you can't put down players like that. They're just special players, you know. Like it's just he's got a great back, great lineup too. Like the counting stats are gonna be there, so you know you just gotta make steals work, you know. And if it's that one draft where you say, all right, well, let me come in 6th in steals, and I'll shoot for everything else to be top of the, and that's fine. You know, you'll have one category where you don't have to come in first, and you'll still win the league, you know.
What are your thoughts on the whole Vlad thing, Lauren?
I'm totally fine taking Vlad because I think that you just the elite production that you're getting in those other 4 categories. I just think that this emphasis on this lack of steals is it's just kind of people are losing that this is probably, you know, a 40+ homer bat. And like Rob said, you are in this very potent lineup. So you're going to get, there's a lot of run production there. And, you know, he doesn't give you a lot of steals. He doesn't give you a 0 though in steals either. Right. You know, it's talking about 3 or 4. And there's a difference there too, you know? So I don't have a problem. I think it's being a little bit kind of blown out of proportion. So I'm fine taking him in the first round. And yeah, that's something that you can easily figure out how you're going to kind of build, you know, with that. So,
and if I can add something too, Mike and Lauren, like it just, I love first base this year. You know, it's so, you know, I've heard people say that too. Well, you know, go ahead, take Reese Hoskins and see if you get Vladden. But that's not the point. You know, obviously you're not trading off player values. It's how you build the rest of your team. You know, it's just like a simple-minded statement that doesn't reflect what that person is trying to say about waiting on first basemen. But you know, I love, you know, I love the range where like Goldschmidt and Alonso go. Like I love Alonso this year. I mean. What's not to love? You know, a guy's shown that he's going to swing more. And when he's aggressive, when he's more aggressive, he's making more contact. His average shot up. So, like, does he have, right? You know, and people, you know, don't realize how well he hit in the minors too, average wise. So that's still in him, you know, and I think he has improvement there, but it's deep. It's a deep pool. You know, you got your guys like Yuli Gurriel that go late. That is just a bank for 80 runs, 80 RBIs, a 310 average, you know, and you can make that work, you know, as well. So I think that's another reason for maybe the hesitancy on Vlad, not just the stolen bases, but first base is pretty deep.
Yes. Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, personally, I've waited for my first baseman every single draft.
Yeah.
And I have 0 Vlad shares. I doubt I will, and it's really just because I've kind of like to build the way that you mentioned, Rob. In the first round, I really prefer someone with speed or an ace, and that's just the way that I am. And that's, you know, everyone's different, so it's fine.
I took him in a best ball league too, like top, I think fourth overall, 3rd overall, because again, you don't need steals, and he's just a monster. You know, I was like, well, yeah, this is a no brainer. You know?
Like points leagues and stuff. Way different.
Right, way different. Yep.
All right, so we're gonna wrap up with one last question. Is there any player in the first round that you think you don't see yourself ever drafting?
Oh man,
According to ADP.
What are we using? Draft Champions right now, ADP?
Yeah, sure, why not?
For the whole drafting season. So
let me say, you want me to read it off to you?
Or you just on the whole season?
Yeah, just go regular, it's fine.
Yeah, I would say out of that group, it would be a close call between Walker Buehler and Juan Soto.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Based on ADP or based I mean, if you're at the end of the first and Soto is somehow there, you're not going to take him.
Oh, that's a different story.
Okay. All right. But what about Buehler? So Buehler, you just will not touch top 15 picks.
Yeah. No, I don't. Okay. I think I like the guys going after him way better. Woodruff, Wheeler, DeGrom. 100%. Okay. I just feel like I don't know. I'm not saying he's going to be a horrible pitcher or he's a horrible pick, but I just don't think that it's as sexy as it looked last year. You know,
right?
I think there's some warts in the game. Again, not going to say he's not going to become a terrible pitcher, but I just think that the guys behind them are a little better. They have a little more upside than him.
Okay, that's fair.
And Soto
just.
I was looking. I actually think I had. I won't take Mike Trout in the first round, but I actually don't. I guess on draft
he's
champions,
just outside.
He's just outside. Okay.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't take Mookie Betts.
I was gonna say Betts kind of scares me.
Yeah.
Yeah, with it's. I mean, although it's an even year and he plays really well every year.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just a statistical fact. So right. I think we need to take that into consideration.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, Rob, I cut you off. You were going to talk about Soto real quick. What were you going to say?
No, but to elaborate on Betts too, I took him in the second round of Battle of Pods just because again I was looking for Hader or Hendricks and they had just went. And yeah, you did. Yep. And that was another like diversification thing. And I again that was like Freddie Freeman was there too. And I was like, wow, I could have one of these two guys. And I was hoping that one of Bogarts, Anderson, or Trevor Story would make it back in the third round because I wanted to actually go 3 hitters first. I know I heard Dave McDonald on his podcast talking about, Rob surprised us because he didn't go pocket aces. He always goes pocket aces. And out of 6 draft champions team last year, I went pocket aces only on 2 teams. They both came in first, but I'm just saying, I don't always do it. It's just I did it when it made sense. I think it's important to diversify, but Betts does scare me a little bit too. But I just felt like that at that pick at 24, that I was like, I'll take a chance on it, But yeah, Juan Soto, I don't know. The ability to take too many pitches scares me in terms of the counting stats.
A lot of walks, right?
He could be producing so much more, and what if he becomes more? Look at the lineup. It's all of a sudden he's going to start swinging more now. He's going to think, I have to do everything, and he's not going to get pitched to. No. I don't care how good of a hitter you are when you don't get pitched to. Like that's what happened to Ohtani in the second half too. Like they didn't pitch to him because they had nobody in the lineup, no Trout, no Rendon, and he got junk all the time, and that's why the second half stats went down a little bit. But I think that's a big thing for Soto. I think the steals are overhyped too, and you're relying on everyone, saying 340, 330. That's not easy to do anymore,
Right.
As great as a hitter he is, like I love watching him in the home run derby was fun. I can't really stand him in the box on a normal day versus the Mets. I think it's funny, I like the things he does, but I'm it's just sometimes it's just like, all right, it's
enough.
I want to know, like, what do you guys think? Do you think he does that on the reg, like even in the clubhouse or like at team dinners, like he's just doing random moves and stuff?
It's just like his thing.
Or is it just a baseball thing, What do you think?
I think it's just, I almost feel like he like thinks it's almost like intimidating. I don't know.
I think that's why he does it.
But then I also think I think he thinks it helps him stay in like a certain groove too. Like kind of like just keep moving instead of just like standing there and like getting cold. Like maybe it just kind of keeps his blood flowing. You know what I mean? Like it feels like it keeps him going a little bit.
What do you think?
It's interesting.
What do you think Nolan Ryan?
Oh my gosh. Peg him instantly and then charge at him.
Yeah, both.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh man. All right. Well, that does it. Thanks for coming on, Rob. I appreciate it. Awesome. I'm glad we're the first podcast you've been on in a while. Yeah.
I
know you said you did it just because you like me.
No, I mean, because I think we made this date in like August. No,
it was a while ago.
Yeah. You set your pod date's nice and early, and it's funny because I knew it was coming around, and I was like, I'm, and you reached out, and you're like, it's okay if if you're not ready. I'm like, nope, got to do this one. This will be the this will be the jump off to come back and get back into the swing of things,
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Does it. Yeah. Thanks again, Rob. You guys can follow Rob on Twitter at Deadpool Hitter. Make sure to check out his podcast, the Pull Hitter Podcast. Make sure you follow Lauren on Twitter at LK Auerbach and check out her episode. She was just on Sleeper and the Bust, right, Lauren?
Yeah.
That was the episod. That was good. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that was fun.
That's when you know you kind of made it, when you get on that. And make sure you guys check out our draft kit. It is up in our shop. On our website, spstreamer.com. Make sure you check out our membership if you want to be part of our Discord, as we do a lot of cool things in there. So thanks again for listening. Please rate and review if you enjoy the podcast, and we will talk to you all soon.